talk about being productive. I'm okay productive. I'm not superhuman productive, but I try to be, and so I had some, I guess, tips and tricks. I think number one, the biggest myth I see is that you have to stick to routine. If that's working for you, stick to it, I guess. But if routine is not working for you and you're still like procrastinating and you just like you never stick to the routine, then screw it. Screw routine. Like, it doesn't work for me. So the longest time I would read these articles or watch these YouTube videos of people saying like, oh, you have to do a morning routine and a night routine, and no, I don't do that. I like to thrive on variety. And then also I think being honest to my energy at that moment. For example, there was this time I was writing this paper and I was like sitting there for like 2 days forcing myself to like get this done. I was writing stuff, but it was like it just didn't flow, and I was like forcing my, and then I kind of gave up, and then I went over to hang out with a friend, and we like took a break. We like watched a show, we worked out, and then I also changed gears and we just did some like school studying instead of working on the research. And like all of that was like time away from doing the thing I was planning to do. But then when I actually got back to it that afternoon, then I wrote that paper in like 2 hours. And so like those 2 days were lower yield than that 2 hour when I was just feeling that creative vibe, ready to write. And so I feel like in terms of things, at least for research, like being in the right mood and the right energy is really important. And if you're not feeling it, even if you pre-planned your week that you're gonna do research at this time, if you're not feeling it, then don't do it. Just like do it later when you're feeling it. If I'm like in a good studying vibe and I said I'm gonna work out at 5 o'clock, but if I'm in a good flow and I'm already like on a roll, then I'm just gonna keep doing it, and I'll just work out later at like 8 o'clock. Every day is gonna be different. So if you wake up feeling like you really have the energy to study, like I was feeling today, then I'm just gonna carry out and study. If I woke up today and I was kind of feeling groggy and I wasn't feeling that study mood, then I would have woken up and done research, which is something like I did yesterday. I like to do that and kind of just go off my mood as much as I can. Like, you know, you can't do that when you have deadlines, but if you can, just be flexible. I think like being flexible and honest to your energy and flow is more important than sticking to a routine or sticking to any sort of plan. So yeah, so again, I would say for those of you who routine really helps, keep doing it, keep being you. But if routine has not been helping you at all, then throw it out the window. Just do whatever floats your boat. I guess going off that for research, I actually spoke to one of my mentors who's a very prolific researcher. I asked him like, how do you prioritize juggling a bunch of different projects? Because I find that stressful as a researcher, trying to do different things. And I expected him to tell me some kind of answer about you're gonna block out this amount of time and schedule it, and he says like, no, honestly, he just goes with whatever interests him. Like working on this project and just like really into it, and that's all he'll do for like a week. If he starts working on it, he just loses energy and he's like not feeling very into it, then he'll just put that aside and then work on whatever else has piqued his interest, and he'll just come back to it when he's interested. And so I was very surprised that it wasn't like a super structured and diligent approach. It was just like, no, just go with the flow. And the caveat is you do have to be very prepared and you're doing everything ahead of deadlines. You can't do that if it's due. And so, but if you're giving yourself a lot of leeway or there's no like defined deadline, then using like peak energy, always wanting to be peak energy instead of like low energy. If you're doing something you really hate and you're not feeling right now, then you're just gonna be super slow. It'll take you like 5 times as long. I guess part 2, I would give a shout out to MDProspect, Jimmy. In his video, he talks about this kind of idea of being accountable to someone really puts you on track, and so I totally follow that. I will definitely get things done because I have a team of people waiting for me. I feel like I have to be productive all the time because other students that I'm working with are relying for me to get their work done. And for example, every Sunday I have a meeting with the research team, and then we set some deadlines for the next week. So what do we want to get done for the next Sunday? What do we want to get done for midweek check-in? And so, you know, I set that deadline. I want them to do certain work for me, and I'm going to also uphold my end of the agreement. Or what are some bigger guidelines? So we want to have something done to present at this conference at, you know, this time. Then general timeline, I know I need to keep moving on that. And then a little hack that I use when I'm not being as motivated or like intrinsically motivated, then I'm going to force myself to be accountable to someone else. So yesterday, I, was like a little bit putting off this like outline of a project, to propose a project that I wanted to do. and because there wasn't a set deadline, so I decided to give myself a deadline. So I emailed someone on my team and I said, hey, I'm about to start working on this outline and I'm going to send it to you by 5 o'clock. And so now, because I hate disappointing people, I really like being a person of my word. So I was on fire. And so like at 2 o'clock I just started writing and I finished at 3 o'clock. I didn't really think it was going to take all of 3 hours, but I just gave myself a little bit of leeway just in case. But then that really helped me be motivated because now I'm accountable to somebody else. So I do that a lot. Sometimes I'll be like a student I'm working with, I'll be like, oh sure, yeah, I'll check this back and I'll get this back to you at this time. And so like I'll like get on it. Or for example, with Research Coordinator, like, you know, ethics takes forever and stuff. And so I was like, okay, when do you think you'll be able to get around to this thing that I need from her? So she needs it by this time, so then I'm gonna get this thing by this time. And so then again, I was accountable to someone else, and so feeling that urgency and feeling that deadline. So making self-imposed deadline, I think, is an amazing idea. It just has never really failed me in terms of that. I guess like a third one is something that always motivates me is talking to my mentors. So I like to have a phone call with my mentor, and that just really just blows me into motivation mode because I always feel so inspired by my mentors. So they're talking about, they get really enthusiastic about the project or really enthusiastic about their, you know, clinical stuff, and then I feel really motivated and remember that I'm doing some of these things because I want to be there and I want to get to that point where I'm really passionate about my career. And so I would say check in with your mentors as much as you can, or check in with like highly motivated friends if maybe you're not that close with your mentors and that's not something you are able to do. But you know, if you don't have that directly, shout out to a fellow UBC student, Kian. Sometimes I'll do is I'm just needing a little hit of motivation, or I need to see someone being productive, so maybe I'll like watch a YouTube video of like Kian's or someone else's on YouTube that's being productive and doing a lot of good stuff. And so for example, if you're pre-med and like watching a med student do some like, working really hard away on YouTube is really helpful. Back in the day before YouTube was really popular, when I was a pre-med back in high school, I would go on some blogs, so and then it's like med blogs, and just follow, like, they would usually post something about what they're doing and they're being really productive, and I would just be like, oh, someone's being really productive, you know, where I want to be. And so then that's a source of motivation again too, if you are looking for external sources or people to keep you motivated. People tend to procrastinate because they telling themselves a story that they have no self-discipline. So they'll be like, yeah, I never stick to anything, I might as well give up now because I don't have the self-discipline to stick to studying for a week for that exam and I'm gonna fail anyways, so whatever, I'm just gonna give up. And so after talking with that, and I want to say this is really common, if that kind of refrain in your phrase relates to you, you're not alone. I swear, some of the most amazing people that I know use that and they tell themselves that. But I think, so my strategy idea for this is that you can accept that as fact. Maybe you'd be like, I have no self-discipline. What you're gonna do is you're gonna tell yourself, figure out what your strength is. And so I can't tell you what that is. It's gonna be different for everyone. But you're gonna hold on to that and you're gonna combat that statement. So for example, I would also say I'm not super self-disciplined about sticking with things. I'm really good at starting things. I'm really good at finishing things. I'm very obsessive about finishing projects, but I'm not that good at sometimes like maintaining motivation. And so, you know, for example, I get really into working out for a while and then sometimes I like fall off track. But one strength that I have is that I'm always willing to start again. I'm always willing to start again how many times it takes. And so I approach that to research or approach that to studying. And so say if I procrastinate, and so say I'm like studying away, I'm doing my USMLE studying, and then I kind of go off on YouTube because YouTube is really good at doing that to your brain. I go off on YouTube or whatever, and then I'll be like, instead of kind of getting into this like deep dark hole where I'm like, I suck, I have no self-discipline, I might as well give up and just spend the rest of the day on YouTube because I've already like failed at maintaining my focus. I can admit to myself a weakness of mine is I haven't maintained that focus perfectly, right? But if I acknowledge my strength, which is the willingness to start again, I can be like, well, I fell off track, but I will start again as many times as it takes. So if I went off track studying, I'm going to start studying again. If I get distracted again by an email, then I'm going to start studying again. I'm going to start studying again. And so I just like the willingness to continuously start and holding on to that as my strength. as a way to combat that that kind of desire to procrastinate or whatever, and not so much desire to procrastinate, but holding on to my strength as a way to combat that negative self-talk to like give up. Because I used to always beat myself up really hard for kind of wasting time, but realizing, say, if I kind of dilly-dallied and didn't do anything by noon, there's still like an entire day basically ahead of me to catch up on that. So it's not like the day is over, I'm not like I've done nothing, and so there's always room to catch up and do better. So helpful that even if you slept till noon, even if you didn't start working until 2 o'clock, like you still have time to like redeem yourself and make it a good day. And so no need to give up. Or if the day sucked, that's okay, you have tomorrow, right? So I guess another would be like, maybe sometimes I don't get as much done as I want to today. So I get little things done, but I don't get like the list of like 10 things that I wanted to get done, and I'll be like, dang it, this day was so unproductive. And we are human and we can't be on top of like 10 out of 10 productive like every single day. Sometimes we're at 10 out of 10, sometimes we're at 4 out of 10, sometimes we alternate back and forth, and that's part of being human. Some days are like less productive than others. As long as everything kind of evens out though by the end. If we add 10 out of 10 with like a 1 out of 10, and then eventually we're productive enough. So I think being forgiving and like not labeling yourself as a unproductive person versus productive people. I think another big thing is just like making your identity unproductive versus a productive person. You're like, some people are good at studying, or some people are whatever, versus saying like, I suck at studying, and it's like unchangeable. I think instead of having that mindset, is like everyone is the same. We're the baseline, we're human, we're all slightly broken in different ways, but we're all human. It's just all about like making choices, basically. So maybe some of their choices and their habits are just really helpful to them so far, or they've come along in their self-learning of what makes them productive. But you are never completely terrible at studying. You always are able to change yourself. You're always able to adopt more productive habits. You're able to change your mindset. You're able to change your study strategy so that you can do better. Realize that like, instead of saying like, I am dumb, I am whatever, like just say like, think of more like the action. I didn't study as much as I should have, maybe for this test, and so I didn't do as well. And then you can kind of, again, focus on the action. You were like, I can study more for this next one, right? So like, I think this is it sounds kind of against what I was saying earlier about like telling yourself that I am a good starter. I think this is like both apply, but they're kind of a little bit different situations. So that going back to the one about like, I am dumb, I am undisciplined, I think that's more of like your general attitude overall. At times you're really discouraged, and then I think you can use the action focus one for like particular moments in like exams or projects and things like. So kind of use a combination of both when it's appropriate. I think you get what I mean, and I think you're all smart enough to do it. So maybe I didn't need to clarify. Activity, another one is definitely studying with other people. I really love doing that. So on Tuesday I just called some classmates, and so I think that's just a really nice way. Even though you're not like talking to each other, you just have each other on like video call. I just find that really nice. I love having company, and so pretty much a lot of my friends have the experience of asking to be studied with me, or to like be video called with me. I personally find that a nice like bonding experience. You're just like keeping each other company and doing a little bit of work and stuff. And so I like that. I think that keeps me really motivated. I do that during the normal school year too. Not so much the video call, but I like hanging out with people to study or to work, and so I like that. Surround yourself with good people to keep yourself motivated. Something that helps that I don't always do, but for example, yesterday I wasn't on that super motivation, so I was on the phone with Julia, and I'll be like, Julia, I'm gonna do this in this time by this time. And so most of the time I don't actually need someone to enforce a deadline and be checking in on me on that, but just the fact that I said it out loud and I've committed to it, because I really like committing to things clearly. Mixing it up, going back to my thing about routine, like mix it up the way you study. So for example, I'm studying, as some of you guys familiar, or if you're studying for the MCAT, sometimes what I would do is I would I would do some questions, and then sometimes I would take notes on paper, sometimes I would do notes in Anki. I don't just do the same thing every time. Like, again, screw study routine. Don't have to do everything the same time. Whatever. Sometimes it's nice to just change it up, do different things. So sometimes you're gonna do questions, sometimes you're gonna watch a video to clarify, you're just gonna do street questions, you're just gonna read it, I don't know, or just like change it up so that you don't ever feel like really bored of what you're doing. I like to have like a general to-do list. You guys see me plan this in the video I'm trying to make about day with me, but clearly my day is so boring that it's not gonna be a very interesting vlog. I like to plan my day, but I don't plan it hour by hour. I've been always trying that, and I tried calendar blocking after a friend suggested to me to be like, but man, like I just don't like, I can't really stand it. I don't really like blocking my time hour by hour. I just like having like a straight up boring list. I don't even do the thing with like bullet journaling and making it all beautiful, like whatever. I just have like a really rough list, and I just like that, and I do like crossing things off, but I'm not like super strict about like what I get done and like ticking things off. Like sometimes I don't even take it off. Sometimes I don't even make a to-do list. Like I don't even think you always need a to-do list. Sometimes I think you just sit down and you're just like, I'm gonna do this now. So I think like just not really forcing yourself to stick to anything. I think there's really no such thing as a perfect system or method that will get you productive. I think it's more of just like, you know, being in the mood to work, and then finding ways to put yourself in the mood to work, finding ways to keep yourself continuing to stay in the mood to work. So for me, like video calling with friends, you can film yourself studying. That's kept me motivated as I've been trying to make sure I'm not procrastinating if I'm filming. And then also I really like this app called Freedom. I'll try to link that below. And so for example, I put down, so I really wanted to work on USMLE, and so so one thing I can get tempted by is I can be tempted to go on YouTube and upload like a new video or kind of make some edits here and there. But so I put on a blocker, and I said like for 6 hours you're gonna block YouTube until 5 or 6 when I might want to use YouTube to like work out. It's made a big difference in me not going off on like a tangent and like reading manga or something. Like really focus about like how I wanna feel like after this entire like week. I usually wanna like be able to like look back on the entire week and say to myself like, I was really productive this week. I also want to say like I had decent balance this week, and so I want to be able I want future me to be proud of past me. So that's a little bit of motivation for me. Present us is usually very focused on, it's a human instinct, right? The current us is very focused on doing the most like positive, dopamine hitting, fun thing that's not really useful for future us, but thinking about what future us will be proud of us doing. So in terms of being motivated, when I was in undergrad, I always like really studied really hard because I wanted to be able to tell myself that I gave myself the best possible chance to get into medical school as much as possible. And so I felt like if I had not studied that well and I had got terrible grades, now I'm gonna have to just like work so much harder, and like my chance, like probability of getting into medical school is lower. I probably still could get in because you don't need perfect grades to go to medical school, but I just like maximizing like probabilities. And so that's, you know, approach I'm taking going forward, trying to go to like try to get into residency and stuff like that, that I'm going to work as hard as I can to maximize my chances, instead of sitting around and being nervous about worrying about like, can I get into residency or can I get into medical school. I'm just gonna like make it happen as much as I can. If it doesn't happen, that's fine, you know, because there's a lot of qualified candidates, there's a lot of factors going on, and maybe I'll end up somewhere else that actually suits me better. But in the meantime, while I can and while I want to do that, I'm gonna do everything I can possible. So I'm gonna try to be working really hard when I'm supposed to be. So say that's in clinicals, I'm gonna like work hard and, you know, show up and be ready and be friendly. That's for me if I'm studying, and say I'm studying for an exam, then I want to put in as much work as I could, so that I can be proud of it, instead of worrying about whether or not I'm going to fail and just kind of spending a lot of time ruminating on that instead of doing anything. I'm just going to take action, and I'm just going to put in the work and see how it goes, right? And so, or, you know, for residency, I'm going to do all my research. I'm going to, you know, shadow or whatever. I don't really shadow much, but like, you know, do all that like groundwork as much as I can, so that I can look back and be proud. Like, I'm like, even I'll be like, I didn't make it, but I'm proud of how hard I tried, and I really know that I put in the best effort possible. So that's pretty much, yeah, some of my tips for productivity. hopefully that helps someone. Again, I'm not a perfect productivity person, and I feel kind of bad saying all this because I am not perfect, but I do try to be really productive as much as I can, so hopefully this is going to help somebody out there. These are things that I wish I knew, so if you like that video, like and subscribe.